Hello, guys, and welcome back. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope everything is good. And of course, we're back with another important topic for you guys. I want to teach you something that you probably guys, man, you guys are going to hear some things on my channel that you would never hear anywhere in the world. I have actually, because I am I've always had access to a lot of demonic energy, and I've always been in touch with demons throughout my life because I've always been close to nature. I've always had access to a lot of these, what do you call esoterical, special information and knowledge that many people don't really have access to. You see, nowadays people are being taught that there is no God and there is no nature, and they don't believe in spiritual things, and it's all like this atheism slash science nonsense. But ancient people always knew that you can definitely have contact and you can be in touch with nature. And through this contact with nature, you can, you get in touch with the spirits of nature, which are demons. And that way you can access a lot of special information. Because everything is energy, right? The same way there's energy in you, there is energy in your eyes, there's energy in your emotions, there's energy in all things around you. And these interactions do occur between people. But anyway, I used to get a lot of information, very arcane, special, esoterical information. A lot of it was in my dreams. I would get it in my dreams, but a lot of it would also be through just regular interactions with the world. But definitely I was getting a lot of this, you know, contact with demons, and they would come and visit me in my sleep. They would come and offer me these contact with dreams, to inform me about certain things. I would see visions in my dreams, and these visions would typically come to be true. These visions would typically be very truthful about a lot of things. And of course, a lot of people have previously talked about how you should never brush your teeth. Guys, if you're brushing your teeth, especially if you're using toothpaste, please, for God's sake, stop brushing your teeth. Okay, we all know that toothpaste has a lot of rat poison. It has a lot of what was that substance called? Um, I can't remember what it was called, but there's a substance contained in toothpaste which is particularly bad for you. And what it does is that fluoride. Yeah, fluoride. So the fluoride in toothpaste is going to do something really bad. It's going to calcify your pineal gland, and it's going to prevent you from opening up your third eye. And of course, the third eye is very important because a lot of the sort of dumb, stupid sheep bots that you deal with on a daily basis, especially these gang stalker perpetrator type of cunts, they're walking around, and what they're doing is a lot of these people, these cocksuckers, they're brushing their teeth. They're using toothpaste. And because they're using toothpaste, which has fluoride, they're always getting this mega dose of fluoride, which is going up into their pineal gland and is calcifying the pineal gland, and therefore it's shutting down the third eye. So they become blind. They don't have vision. They don't have an understanding of what is happening in the world, and they have no contact, whether through their dreams. A lot of these people are not actually able to either dream or remember their dreams, which is quite horrible. And of course, they don't have any contact with demons or spirits. They don't have contact with any of the things in nature. So it's very important to always make sure to keep your third eye as open as you can. That way you will be in tune and constantly have contact with nature. And that way you will benefit from getting the special knowledge and understanding from the world around you, right? Because you don't want to be like a moron, right? You don't want to be like one of these gang stalkers. You see these gang stalkers, for example, and they're doing a lot of the stupid shit that they're doing. A lot of these people are involved in this perpetrator gang stalker shit because they're very dumb. And a lot of these people, they cannot actually survive on their own. They don't have the smarts or the wits to survive on their own, and that's why they have to, get down on their knees and suck the dick of their handlers, and sign all these, non-disclosure agreements and contracts with their handlers and the government, because they need the government to constantly pay them and give them money just so that they can go and stalk people and harass them. And that's like the only way that they can survive, because they're not smart enough to survive on their own. They need to suck the dick of the handlers and sign all these NDAs and contracts, essentially signing their lives away just to survive. And they have to gang stalk you. That's why they're doing it so viciously, because they have to do it. They have to do it. Otherwise, they won't have food on the table. And guys, you have to understand something, is that we are amazing fucking people. We are the best people in the world. Because technically speaking, we targeted individuals, we are the employers of the gang stalkers. Now, the gang stalkers may not realize this, but we are the employers. We are the, as they would call it in German, wir sind die Arbeitsgeber. Arbeitsgeber. We are giving them a job. We are their job. We are the free people. We are the ones who have freedom. And they are the slaves. And we are their job. Without us, without the targeted individuals, the perpetrators wouldn't have a job. They wouldn't have food on their table. How can they get food on their table? How can they work? How can they have a job if there is no employer? So you are, as a targeted individual, you are technically the employer of the perpetrators. You are the employer of the gang stalkers, of the cocksuckers. So let these people suck dick as much as they want to. No problem. You live your life and be a freedom-loving person, and don't worry about it. Because you're the one who give them a job. They need you. They need you to have food on their table. And that's why they do all these things viciously. And I see these people stalking me and harassing me in the supermarkets. And they do it because then they can go and like get resources, right? So they can like go and buy like, 20 euros or 30 euros worth of food or whatever. But I always sit there and I laugh at these people, because I can see just how sheepish and slavish and stupid a lot of these people are. And of course, here in Europe, a lot of the perpetrators and gang stalkers, they're very nerdy looking motherfuckers. Like, they got specs and fucking glasses like with minus 2.5, minus 3. Like the vision guys, man, you see these cocksuckers, man, and they got like the biggest fucking eyeglasses I've ever seen in my fucking life. And I just sit there and I look at them and I'm laughing inside of me. I might not do it overtly or publicly, but inside I am laughing at them. I look at them and I'm like registering all the things that I see, because I'm very like observant. I'm very analytical. And I see these people, I'm like, haha, you guys are fucking wearing like eyeglasses. Look at you, man, you fucking moron. And they think that they're winning, but they don't really realize that they are slaves. And I look at the things that they are buying, and it's like absolute fucking crap, man. Like, you did all this shit, signed all these NDAs and non-disclosure agreements, and signed all these contracts, and sucked all the fucking dick from the handlers, just to come and stalk me and harass me, just so you can get 20, 30 euros that you can buy something in the supermarket. But then you can't even buy proper food. And what are you putting on your fucking plate? You fucking slave, you fucking bitch. What are you putting on your fucking plate? Spaghetti, rice, bread, starchy foods, croissant, pastries, fucking cheesy puffs and cheesy pastries, and fucking, absolute fucking trash and sugary fucking foods, and all this artificial crap which has like colorants and artificial additives, and and all this stuff. So all of this that you did, all the cocksucking, all the NDAs and non-disclosure agreements that you signed, all the contracts that you signed, signing essentially your freedom of life away to the government, all these things that you have done, what did you benefit at the end? Nothing. You benefited food, which is not even food, which is not even helping you. It is harming you. It is causing you to die slowly. And you will die. And I want you to die because you deserve it. Because you're a cocksucker and a bitch and a slave and a cunt. And people like you deserve what's coming to them. And you will get it one way or another. All right, guys? So, back to my initial topic. So, throughout my life, I've always been privy to some special knowledge and access to very special arcane energies and things like that, which I get from nature. Of course, I get it from the demons. And I think a lot of it, because I used to spend a lot of time going to nature, and obviously I grew up in the Middle East, and we used to go camping in the desert. And of course, the desert is a great place to have contact with demons or the jinns or any spiritual entities, which can be found in nature. And I oftentimes get a lot of special dreams and visions. Of course, to this day, I still get access to a lot of special visions and dreams. But what I want to talk about today is complicated. It's complicated and convoluted because there's a lot of things I want to talk about. So a lot of people have asked me before, they said, what do you think, Anis, what do you think planet Earth comes from? What is planet Earth? Now, that's actually a very good question. What is planet Earth? Well, you see, the simplest answer I can give anybody is through observation. You may look around you and look at the other planets. And you will realize that the closest planets that we have to planet Earth, because planet Earth is actually sandwiched between two planets, and those are Venus and Mars. So essentially, planet Earth is a product of Venus and Mars. It's a mixture of Venus and Mars. So when you see the rockiness and the earth that we have on planet Earth, a lot of that actually comes from Mars, because Mars is quite similar to Earth in a lot of ways, although also very different. Now, technically, when you go to Mars, what do you notice? Well, it's a desert. It is a desert. But although it's a desert and there's a lot of cliffs and rocks and edges and mountains, but it also has water, but frozen water in the form of ice, sort of ice, sort of hidden under the ground, underneath the ground. And Mars also has something which is quite similar to Earth, which is it has a lava core. So the core of Mars is actually made of a lot of lava and magma. The same way that the Earth does as well have a lot of lava and magma inside of the Earth. So, however, Earth is also not just a product of Mars, it's also a product of Venus. So, had you looked at what Venus is and you realized that Venus is actually, Venus is actually a very hot planet. I can't remember what the temperature was in Celsius, but it's a very hot planet. So it's extremely hot, Venus. And essentially it is made up of, it's a gas planet. It's not an actual solid planet, by the way. It is in an evaporated gaseous form. And it's made up of sublimated metals. So the planet Venus is made up of gas, but it's metallic gas. It's minerals, right? So these are metals, which at room temperature would normally be solid, but they've been sublimated. They've been, due to the intense heat of Venus, they've been sublimated and evaporated into a gaseous form. And this can actually happen. You can, the same way that you can take a metal and you can melt it and make a lava out of it, you can actually evaporate it at really, really intense high pressure temperatures. The metals are going to evaporate. They're going to become gaseous. They're going to become like a gas. And that's essentially what is Venus. So all the metals, because there's not really a lot of metals and minerals in Mars, although there is water. And that's where the water and the rocks and the cliffs and the mountains all come from in Earth. They come from Mars. But from Venus, we also get the gases, so like nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, all these gases, we get it from Venus. But we also get a lot of the minerals and the metals, we get them also as well from Venus. So essentially, a lot of people don't know this, but planet Earth is just a product of a mixture between Venus and Mars. Now, I can't tell you how this happened or when it happened, but it definitely is a fact. It is a fact, and you can readily and very easily notice this fact through observation that Mars and Venus are the parents of Earth, and essentially, Mars is the father of Earth, and Venus is the mother of Earth. I don't know if this makes any sense, because Mars, as a planet by the Romans, and in the Roman mythology, has always been known as a god. And it was also always represented as the god of masculinity. So the patriarchal masculine god. So it's the god of war, it's the god of bravery, it's the god of, fighting. And Venus is the goddess of femininity and motherhood and fertility. So the reason why it is the goddess of fertility is because, even to this day on planet Earth, when you use fertilizers to fertilize plants, you're essentially using chemicals. And a lot of these chemicals, such as, the nitrates and the nitrites, like potassium nitrate and that kind of stuff, which is typically used as a fertilizer, a lot of it does come from Venus, because you look at, all these minerals, they all come from Venus. Venus is full of potassium, and nitrate in chemistry is essentially NO3 or NO4, and that's essentially nitrogen mixed with 3 or coupled with 3 or 4 oxygen. And of course, nitrogen and oxygen, they all come from Venus. So this is the evidence that planet Earth is actually a product of the father, Mars, and the mother, Venus. And they came together in a relationship, and they gave birth to planet Earth. And this is where we are right now. So Earth, even when you look at the colors, you can notice the colors as well. When you look at planet Earth and you notice the colors that you see when you're looking at planet Earth, let's say from a satellite or from a spaceship, the colors do indeed look almost as if the colors of Mars were mishmashed and mixed with the colors of Venus. And this is amazing. This fact is amazing. It's awesome. It's awe-inspiring, right? Because Mars is all reddish. It's all that desert sort of ochre, reddish kind of like Arizona, Grand Canyon, sort of Utah, Salt Lake City type of look, right? And you see this readily in Earth because Earth is full of deserts and rocks and land masses, and mountains and that kind of stuff. But there's also the water, right, which also comes from Mars. But we also see a lot of things that come from Venus. And Venus, of course, the color of Venus is quite, it's green and teal. It's half teal, half green. And that is another color which we see quite readily here on Earth. You see, you see spots on the Earth which are made up of like ochre, sort of yellowish, earthy colors. That's more like desert areas. Of, for example, the Grand Sahara or the Kilimanjaro and those sorts of places. But there are also many other places on planet Earth which, when looked at from a satellite, do look quite greenish and teal. And these colors, these herbaceous, plant-like colors, they're coming from Venus, right? And also, the reason why, this is quite funny, but the reason why the sky looks blue and, the reason why the sky or the atmosphere looks blue, and of course planet Earth looks quite bluish as well when you looked at from the outside, is because of Venus. Because Venus, the reason why Venus is so teal, the reason why Venus is so teal and green is because Venus contains a lot of gases. It contains a lot of hydrogen and sulfur, especially sulfur and nitrogen. So the reason why planet Earth, the sky looks blue, and by extension, as a reflection of the sky, the waters of the sea and the ocean also look quite bluish. It's just a reflection of the sky, and that's the reason for it is just the intermeshing of it's the effect of the blaring of the sun, the sunlight, reflecting on the sulfur compounds and the sulfur atoms that are flying in the air or in the atmosphere of the sky. And that's the reason why planet Earth is so blue and teal and greenish as well. And all of this is coming from Venus. So there's aspects of planet Earth which are coming from Mars, the father, and there's aspects of Earth which are coming from the mother, Venus, right? The herbaceousness and the colors of the atmosphere and the sky are all coming from Venus because of the, the gases and the rocky, mountainous deserts, land masses color, and the water is coming from Mars. All right, guys? So, guys, you are actually very lucky to be subscribed. For all the people who are subscribed to my channel, I can see there's about 290 people subscribed to my channel. You guys are very lucky because I'm giving you some information that you would never get access to anywhere in the world. Like, this is not some kind of information that you're going to find on the internet, or you can look it up on Google or whatever. You're never going to find this information. You need somebody like me. You need a wizard, a sorcerer, a magician, such as myself, who can contact nature and get contact with the demons and the spirits, who can reveal this hidden knowledge to you, because you guys, otherwise you would not have access to this information, right? But anyway, now, as somebody who grew up in the Middle East, and the Middle East, of course, is quite desert-like. It's a giant desert, and of course, deserts are much more reminiscent of Mars. So these are pockets of the Earth which they are coming essentially from Mars. So they're coming from the Father. So when you live in a desert, you're essentially living in Mars. You're living in a piece of Mars. You're living in a desert. You're living in Mars. You're living with the Father, the Father of Earth. And that's why these deserts and these Middle Eastern places tend to be quite patriarchal, and there's a lot of masculinity there. And of course, I have noticed it myself, is that even when you live in the Middle East, it's particularly easy for the testosterone to go up. Like the testosterone tends to increase quite easily, because it's a particularly non-estrogenic land. It's a land that doesn't promote estrogen, tends to promote testosterone quite a lot. As opposed to Europe. Europe is or the West is very, has a lot more of the Venus sort of feminine energy. There's more greenery and grass and vegetation and plants and woods and this sort of thing, which tends to promote more of the feminine sort of estrogenic energy of Venus. Because it's just, when you have, you can also explain this scientifically as well, because in a desert, you don't have a lot of vegetation and plantation. So that means there is a poverty of gases, of natural gases. There's a poverty of air. So the air is very thick. It's very, you can't breathe, right? Because in the desert, there's not a lot of vegetation. So the air doesn't contain as much oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, all these different gases. But when you go to the woods in Europe, for example, and there's all these woods and vegetation and plants, the air tends to be quite saturated with these hydrogen and nitrogen and oxygen and all these things that come from Venus. It's very feminine, sort of saturated air, a lot of breath and breathing. Whilst in the desert, it's particularly difficult to breathe. Now, growing up in the desert, it was, there's a lot of this energy from Mars, sort of this patriarchal, masculine, Martian energy. And yeah, I mean, technically speaking, the desert is literally a piece of Mars, because that spot of the desert is actually coming from Mars. It literally is, or used to be, a part of Mars. And of course, you can look at all these planets. Like, I can't understand why a lot of people don't seem to understand what I'm saying, but when you look at the planets, they look like they're spherical, right? They look like bubbles, right? So when you want to ask yourself the question and you say, how did these planets get created? Well, it's like bubbles. If you take, I don't know if you ever played this game as a child. You take this this thing and you you breathe into it and then bubbles come out. Like, they put soap, the water into it, and then the bubbles start to form. But what you notice typically with bubbles is that the bubbles can coalesce with each other, and they can also separate from each other. So bubbles can form together and coalesce, but they can also separate and individuate. Then a bubble can come out of a bubble and another bubble, and then you get multiple, 5, 6, 7, 10 bubbles, right? This is exactly what was happening with the planets. They may have actually been coalesced at one point, as in there was the Mars bubble and the Venus bubble, and they coalesced and formed one bubble, and then a third bubble came out of it, and that bubble is Earth. Planet Earth is the bubble that came out of the Mars and Venus bubbles. All right, guys? And this is, of course, the reason why all these planets, they all look like bubbles. They all look like spherical, because you can ask yourself the question, out of all the shapes that could have been for these planets, why did nature choose that these planets would be spherical and bubble-like instead of being, I don't know, square, rectangular, triangular, flat, like all those flat earthers say that it's flat or like a disc. It could have been any one of these shapes, but for some goddamn reason, Mother Nature chose that all these planets would be spherical and have a shape of a bubble. There is wisdom in this. There is particularly good wisdom in this. It's because the only way that these planets can coalesce and individuate, it's a lot like bacteria. You look at bacteria. I don't know if you guys have ever studied bacteria. Maybe in high school, you might have done a little bit of microbiology or biology, and you look at the cells, even the human cells, and bacteria are definitely a type of cells. Well, how do bacteria form? Well, bacteria come from other bacteria. You have the mother bacteria, and it divides into two parts. And then two other bacteria form, and you get two bacteria bubbles. So there's the mother bacteria bubble, right? And it's calling it a bubble. It's not a bubble, but it's the shape of a bubble. And it divides and individuates into two separate bacteria. And then you get two bacteria, two bubbles. And then those two bubbles, each one can separate individually through a process called mitosis. And you get four bubbles, four bacteria. And then it doubles and doubles. You get 8, and then 16, and then 32, and then so on and so forth. So this is essentially what is happening with all these planets. It's quite funny. It's mesmerizing. It's amazing. So that's So if you're living in a desert, or if you're living in the Grand Canyon or in Arizona, then you're definitely living. Technically, you are living on Mars, like literally. And I don't mean this as a joke. You're literally living on a piece of Mars. And if you go to a place which has a lot of woods and shrubs and trees and sort of like a jungle, let's say the Amazon, then you're definitely living in a more Venusian or Venus-like area. So I hope I explained to you guys some of the facts about, where planet Earth is coming from. Planet Earth is basically just a product of Mars and Venus, and yeah, that's just how it is. And of course, you can always go from different places in the world, and you can see the different areas. You can explore areas in the world which have more of the Mars energy, and you can explore areas in the world that have more of the Venus energy. And it's quite amazing to explore all these places, because you can learn a lot about the energies and the effects that they can have on people, on yourself as well. Anyway, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you guys in the next one.